each person, the retirement age is going to be dependent upon what they want to do with their life and how they want to live their life. So for someone, early retirement could even be at 40. For someone, it could be at 45. For someone, it could be at 50, 55. It's really dependent on how much longer a person wants to work full time, or what are the sort of activities that a person wants to really engage in. It really boils down to how you want to live your life, and basis on that you decide what's early retirement for you. Very importantly, you would need a calculator, and there are lots of retirement planning calculators which are available online. Of course, Money Control website also has many such calculators that you can actually use to figure out how much you need to invest per month. Now, with retirement planning, there are some inputs which are really important. So the first input, of course, is your age. And more importantly, what are the expenses that you forecast per month? Many times I feel people feel that expenses come down in retirement. Expenses actually don't come down, they get replaced. So right now, if you're spending, let's say, on children's education, it'll get replaced with other activities that you actually want to spend money on, right? So I do not recommend actually reducing the expenses from current expenses, but estimating the current expenses correctly. And then, of course, based on where you're investing, you will be able to figure out what's the amount. Just to give you some idea, for example, let us assume that you're 35 today and the expenses per month that you have is 1 lakh rupees, and assume an inflation of 5%, right? Now, if you want to retire at the age of 55, the amount that you need to invest per month is 60,000 rupees per month. But if you want to retire earlier, that is at the age of 50, the amount that you need to invest goes up to 95,000 rupees per month, right? So, the first thing really is to get this number right. And this number is based on your current expenses, and of course, the age at which you want to retire. These are two very important inputs. And of course, this is the way to start, like figuring out how much you need to invest per month. Everybody can aspire to retire early, but you really need to work towards it. So, for example, if you have a lot of responsibilities, financial responsibilities as well, then probably you need to lead a very frugal life. So, the trade-off is always like, what can you do right now for a better future, right? And I think retirement is also one of those things, like, if you do want to retire early, you will need to be very frugal. You will also need to be investing in the right instruments, right? So you'll also probably need to take some more bit of risk rather than just being in traditional investments. One of the biggest mistakes that people make on retirement, that they look at very traditional instruments which really do not give great returns, right? So people are looking at investing in insurance policies. People are looking at investing in real estate. Insurance policies typically give you a return of about 5%, which doesn't beat inflation. Real estate typically gives you a return of about 7 to 8%, keeping in mind that there are maintenance costs, property tax, and of course, if you're earning a rent, it's also taxable, right? So the typical return that you can expect from a flat is going to be about 7 to 8%. And then a lot of women look at putting money in gold. The reality is that, again, if you look at inflation adjusted returns, gold has not really given you great returns on an inflation adjusted basis. So, the idea would be to look at instruments. If you are salaried, of course, the employee provident fund is a great instrument because it gives you 8.5% tax-free, risk-free return. Apart from that, you can also opt for NPS, whether you are salaried or even if you're non-salaried, you can also opt for NPS. Now, the reason I like NPS is because it makes you a very disciplined investor, because you have to invest every year. It matures at the age of 60. It's low cost. But within NPS also, you need to look at going for the active equity option, because that's when you're going to maximize your equity exposure. Of course, you can invest in equity mutual funds, or you can invest in balanced funds as well. The choice is really depending upon the risk that you want to take. But I would like to just share a small data point out here. just to give you an idea, that if somebody is investing 10,000 rupees per month for the next 30 years at 12%, they'll end up with a corpus of about 3.5 crores. But if the same 10,000 rupees is being invested at a rate of 7%, for example, you'll end up with a corpus of only 1.22 crores, right? So there is a huge amount of difference in returns between equities and between other instruments. And while equities do sound risky, and they are risky, of course, more volatile, certainly, but over long periods of time, historically, also, we've seen that equities have given the best returns. And that's why it's imperative that you need to have some equity exposure when you're investing towards retirement. Ideally, you should start saving for retirement as early as possible, because every 5 years that you actually delay your investments, you actually have to save double the amount. So the first thing is that irrespective of the amount that you can save, you should start saving it, because if you delay it, you're going to have to save double the amount. I always feel that you will need at least a 15 to 20 year period for your money to grow, before which you can look at retiring. So certainly you cannot say, I'm 30 today and I want to retire at 35. I think that's going to be a big challenge to have the right amount of money, right? But honestly, if you can do it early enough, it is easy to do it. It is not difficult to do it at all. So I think a 15 to 20 year is a good period to have in mind, basically. When you're doing checking out how much you need to be saving per month, you also need to ask yourself, what are you retiring to? So how are you going to keep yourself mentally engaged? How are you going to spend your time? Because, while everybody says I'm going to travel, honestly, I don't think you can travel more than 1 month or 2 months in a year, right? I mean, beyond that, you're going to get tired of the traveling also, right? So, remember that you still have another 10 months to go, which you need to pass your time. So that's very important for you to answer, that what are you retiring to? The thing that you're retiring to, is it going to need more capital, or is it going to give you some income, right? You have to think about these factors as well. And I think everybody needs to have a plan B in their life, like how are they going to spend their time if they retire. Is it maybe teaching something, or running a business, or consultancy, or there's so many options that are available today. What is important is for people to figure out something that they like doing, and see how they can capitalize on that to have a great retirement.